Welcome everyone to Uptown TV. This is actually our first episode, and it's a very exciting day simply because we'll be talking about urban farming. Let me introduce my co-host for today. I have here Carla.
Hi.
Hi, Carla. How are
Hi,
you?
Wen. I'm good. I'm good. It's a rainy morning here in Cavite. So I'm
Really?
broadcasting straight from Cavite. Yes, and it's a very nice topic kasi ang dami-dami kong mga neighbors dito na nahilig ngayon sa mga sa mga plants, sa mga plantitas, ganyan.
That is very true. Before we dig into our discussion, let me give a very brief background about Uptown TV because, as you are all aware, this is a fairly new channel. Basically,
Yes.
Uptown TV is a social media platform and it's really more of community discussions. So, the
Mm-hmm.
topics that we discuss over a cup of coffee, but right now we don't have a coffee, would be would be relationships, current
Music,
events.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Music,
wellness,
wellness, lifestyle, and
the latest trends.
the latest trends. Exactly. Basically, topics that are worth discussing over.
How about you, Wen? Di ka pa
Yeah.
nagpakilala. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Actually, I'm very excited because this is our pilot
Yes.
episode, and I'm just very excited about this.
Yes, and fingers crossed talaga maging successful talaga tong channel
Pretty
natin.
sure.
And I think that the viewers will learn a lot, especially sa coming episodes natin. Marami tayong mga
Definitely.
magiging guests. Yeah, so
Definitely.
we're just kickstarting the show with our very first guest today.
Yes, and we are very privileged because the guest that we have is actually the founder. This is a father-daughter duo, and their organization is called Kids Who Farm. And I'm sure for those people na been into farming, been into urban farming, been into agriculture, and these kinds of things, most probably are already familiar with them. Siguro before we present the CEO of Kids Who Farm, I have one of their video clips. Let's show it to them first, and then we'll bring up the CEO of Kids Who Farm.
Sure, sure.
All right, that's
Let's go.
perfect. There you go. Did you see that, Carla?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very exciting. Imagine ang dami na pala nilang community. And you know what? When we had a chat just earlier, they just started pala last year, about 2019. And right now, they have about 1,000 members.
Talaga.
Yeah, nakakatuwa, no?
Yeah. Saan naka-base ang Kids Who Farm?
They are based in Zamboanga, but you know what? Let's try to find out. Let's bring the father and duo CEO right now. Hi, Monsini and
Hello.
Reina. How are you guys?
Good
dear.
morning. Yes, we're doing good.
That's
Buenos
great.
dias.
Wow,
Greetings from Zamboanga City.
Spanish.
Good morning. Welcome to
Good
Uptown
morning.
TV.
Thank you so much for having us here this morning. This is I think the first time that um, the first time that we use this type of app, and at the same time, I understand we're the first guest for this program. So thank you so much, Gwen and
Yeah,
Carla, for this
Yes.
yeah.
opportunity.
Thank
Yeah,
you
not
also for
just
giving
that.
us the time.
Exactly. Think we are very privileged and grateful that you've given us the time, and we are very excited to learn about things on how to do urban farming. So probably Carla, let's start now.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
I see that you have your daughter
Yeah.
with you. Hi,
Hi.
Raina. How are
Hi,
you?
Raina. How old are
I'm
you, Raina?
okay.
How old are you?
10.
10
Grade
years old.
10.
Wow, very young to start, this type of community.
Mm.
Yeah.
Our audience would for sure are very excited to learn about urban farming. Let's start. What is Kids Who Farm?
So
Bakit nagkaroon ng Kids Who Farm? How did it start?
So Kids of Farm is a like 1 year old plus advocacy initiative based here in Zamboanga. So it's basically co-founded by me and Raina. So and it was co-founded in February 2019 during Raina's
Wow.
ninth birthday. So our goal really is to inspire future farmers. That's how we wanted to be recognized, no? And by saying inspire future farmers, we want to educate or capacitate our young people, our youth, on the importance of food and farming through different learning activities that focus on building their knowledge, their capacity to produce food, to understand better the value of food and farming.
Ang
That
ganda
is
ng
that
ano
is
nyo. Ang ganda ng vision and mission ninyo.
Thank you.
at saka to have thought of it, at such a young age, that's very remarkable, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very true. And hindi kasi lahat ng mga bata ngayon, they are engaged and involved in, these
Yeah.
types of industry, especially if it's farming. Kaya nga nakakagulat na, this is a father-daughter duo. Normally, it's just the father and probably some of the employees. But, with the children involved, it really makes
Yeah.
a very big difference.
Yeah. I think si Raina can like give some thoughts about like how we started, no? So what is the motto of Kids Who Farm?
Yeah, that's nice. So we'd love to hear it from Raina. What's the story,
Story,
Raina, behind
quick
Kids Who
story.
Farm?
Started in my ninth birthday. And
Wow.
hmm, thinking. Well, the story is that um uh at summer I go with my father. I travel to farms in the nation, right?
Yes.
And we observe that the farmers are old. So we think, where are the young farmers? Well, if we can find any, we should make some. We should empower them with the um uh
Knowledge.
empower, empower them with knowledge about food and farming. That's how we start the advocacy kids who farm.
Wow, that's great.
It's a very nice story, yeah, actually. Nagulat lang ako, Raina, why farming? I mean, there are a lot of kids kasi na into gadgets, into playing, ML and, other things. Bakit ikaw, as early as 9 years old, you were very intrigued na with farming? What's with farming ba that, makes you
Farm.
very excited about?
Yeah.
How do you want to teach farming?
Yeah.
Okay. Because at first I think farming is interesting. I've always wanted to be um a botanist. Well,
Mm.
not only
Wow.
about growing food, but growing medicine. as well.
Ang ganda naman ng
Also,
ambition
I
niya.
want to make new friends. Well, that
nice.
happens commonly now. Well, in face-to-face tradings.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure you've made a lot of and I'm pretty sure you've made a lot of friends, especially with your growing community. Nakakatuwa.
Alam mo, nakakatuwa yung ambition niya, no? Talagang botanist, di ba? Parang hindi siya usual. Parang ako, bata ako, gusto ko lang mayaman ako, gano'n, di ba?
Parang,
Pero ako naman, Carla.
Yeah.
Ako naman, Carla, nung bata naman ako, I wanted to be a teacher.
A teacher.
A teacher.
Yung mga usual, di ba? Doctor, teacher, ano pa ba? Nurse, ganyan.
Nurse.
Very, very lang na talagang botanist. Botanist ako, di ba? Nakakatuwa si Raina. At saka, na-expose niyo ba siya, Munir? Like, bakit siya naging interested sa botany? Like, did you, when she was younger, did you expose her ba?
When I started like doing urban gardening, kasi meron akong maliit na urban garden, I mean, before kami, nakatira kami sa Davao before, tumutulong siya dun sa mga work ko, yung pag-prepare ng garden, like expose the kids, di ba, dun sa touching the soil, touching the leaves of the plant. And I think naman siguro yung influence ng gusto niya na mag-botany ay primarily doon so actual na travel experience niya na ginagawa namin. Like over the last 3 years maybe, sumasama yan siya sa akin every time may chance, no? And kasi my work, yung work ko talaga is with an NGO called WWF, and I'm doing work with the farmers, no, all over the country. So magandang exposure din sa kanya na nasama siya dun sa mga, kasi parang sa kanya naman adventure lang siya parang, and to meet new people, new friends, at masarap na pagkain, ganyan. So, yeah.
Exactly. Bata
The food.
I think that's also correct, Carla. Kasi,
I like the birds.
alam mo yung interests kasi ng mga bata, heavily or is really dependent on, the influence that their parents have on their kids. Kaya nga, di ba, kung ang parents is into farming, then you will really see na yung mga bata is also interested into farming. And, ganun din naman sa ibang mga industries.
No, if you have a family or parents are lawyers, more or less, you're gonna grow up to be a lawyer, something like that, no?
Yeah. And that's,
it's very nice. It's very nice also for Munir to have, exposed and, to bring along Raina whenever he has the chance. Para si Raina mismo, she can experience it firsthand. Diba?
Yeah, that is very true. Well, pag-usapan naman natin ang farming. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng farming? Kasi I'm pretty sure there are, kids out there. I'm really talking about audience that are kids. Kasi there are kids out there who don't know how to farm. Basically, they don't even understand what urban farming is. Ang nasa utak lang nila is when they talk about farming, yun yung nasa agriculture, in the rice field, those kinds of things. But yung urban farming, wala sa vocabulary nila. Yes, you were saying, Carla.
Hindi, i-butt-in ko lang, may joke lang ako. Kasi alam mo, alam ng mga bata ngayon na farming, sa Mobile Legend, mag-farm muna sila. Ibig sabihin na, they're gonna kill the creatures. Nag-ML kasi ako eh. They're gonna kill the creatures, ganyan. So, para magkaroon silang money. Yun yung sabihin nila farming. So, I think, ngayon, yun ang alam nila na farming. Hindi nila alam ito talagang farming. Kung ano ba talaga yung farming na, in its true sense, di ba?
Yes.
Parang ganyan. Yan.
Natawa ako sa'yo, I've been trying to learn ML. I just really don't understand ML. Anyway, so going back. So, kidding aside, Munir, can you tell us about urban farming? What does urban farming mean?
Ano ko lang muna, i-share ko lang din muna bakit hindi ganun ka popular among young ones yung farming or yung urban farming, no? Siguro kasi importante din ang role ng parents doon sa influencing the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi when we actually teach the kids about eating right, di ba? Kumain tayo ng wasto, dapat healthy yung kinakain natin. Huwag kayong magsayang ng pagkain, no? Importante, bawat butil ng bigas kailangan nating kainin. So if
Yes.
we're trying to teach our kids about that one, why not teach our kids about growing food? Kasi that's interrelated eh. If you want to teach your kids eating right, you also teach your kids about growing the food, growing the right food to eat, no? And that basically starts at home. So that's where the concept of home food production or home
Mm.
gardening or shall we say urban farming came about, no? Na we're coming from the perspective na we want to make use of whatever resources that we have at home to produce our own food. Siguro before the pandemic, hindi ganun siya ka-relevant in a way because
Mhm.
we always have access, no? May mobility tayo. We can either go to a market or a
Yeah.
supermarket, and we have jobs, no? We are earning. But unfortunately, because of what happened now, a lot of our kababayans are really losing jobs, losing the purchasing power to buy food, and it makes sense really to bring the discussion on growing your own food again. Um,
Also to boost immunity.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Actually,
Yes.
nakakatuwa kasi Carla, our topic is very timely, 'di ba, when we had
Yeah.
our discussions on the topics that we are going to
Yeah.
tackle in our community. Isa to sa mga
Yeah.
napag-usapan natin kasi nga 'di ba, in Facebook we see a lot of posts about gardening, about plants, about buy and sell of plants. And so ito is
Yeah.
really very timely. And gaya nga ng sinabi ni Munir na because of this pandemic, the drive to really grow your own food has really increased
Yeah.
rapidly as opposed to pre-pandemic or prior the pandemic.
And it's very ano pa, mas magiging beneficial siya for those in the city. Kasi 'di ba, when you're in the city, basically you don't have enough land.
That's
'Di ba?
right.
If you live in a condo, if you live, like a very small apartment, ganyan, and you might think that you don't have any means of growing your own food because of your very, very tiny space, diba? So that's why it's also very nice that we have Munir and Rhina here so that they can also share with us kung paano ba, kung may way ba that we can do urban farming, especially those in the city.
Siguro mga 2 weeks ago, about a month ago pala when I talked with Munir, kasi I was really interested in doing farming in my home. As you can see, gaya nga ng minention mo na those people who are
Yeah.
interested but they don't have the land to
Mm-hmm.
actually farm their food.
Yeah.
I for one, I live in a condo, and alam mo naman ang mga condos wala
Yeah.
talaga, not even a backyard. So,
Mm-mm.
siguro let's ask Munir, what are the tips or how to start urban farming without a very big space?
Yeah.
yeah. Alam mo, it really boils down to mindset. So gusto ko lang i-establish muna na lahat naman ng ginagawa natin kailangan yung right mindset, no? So in urban farming, our mindset is that limited spaces need wider mindset. So ibig sabihin, hindi lang yung limitasyon natin sa space, no? In order for us to grow our own food. And in fact, we can take advantage of our creativity and innovation in trying to figure out what are the things that we can really do in a limited space. Okay, so maybe I'll just like run down like around 3 or 4 tips doon sa how to start your own like balcony garden if you're doing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
if you're living in a condo. But I think one very important thing to consider when you're doing urban gardening in a limited space is that you try to also figure out whether or not your area will receive the right amount of sunlight. So saan sa balcony, saan sa condo mo ang may area na natatamaan ng at least mga around 4 hours of morning sun. And that's where you put
Okay.
your garden. Kasi sunlight, as explained by our science teacher namin ni Wendy,
Yeah.
it's an important component ng photosynthesis, no? So in food production of the plant, no? So maraming options. When your area is receiving a sunlight of like 6 to 8 hours, you can practically grow a lot of vegetables, no? From talong, ampalaya, what else? Mga climbing vegetables, upo, and so on. So marami sa mga gulay na kinakain natin needs like 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. But if your area is like receives 4 hours, more or less 4 hours na sunlight, 4 hours na shade, you can grow more herbs. You can grow herbs. You can grow
Okay.
some leafy vegetables such as lettuce, and yung mga root crops na vegetables like yung radish, yung ginger.
Mm.
Yan. And then if your area is shade loving, ibig sabihin mas marami yung shade kaysa sun, maybe around 3 hours lang yung sun, you can grow mga leafy vegetables such as pechay, yan, ganyan, your kangkong, and so on. So, yan ang pinaka number one. So when you figure out kung ano yung sunlight requirement ng inyong lugar, pipiliin mo na ngayon kung ano itatanim mo, no? And then second is to use your recyclables, no? This is where your innovation will come in. Kasi pag-iisipan mo, ano ba yung mga basura sa bahay na pwede kong i-convert into containers? Kasi pagdating sa choice of your container, your imagination is your limit. Kasi kahit yung pantalon mo na discarded na, you can convert that into a container for your plant.
Really?
Okay pala
Your
yun.
electric fan cover, your ice cream containers, ano pa ba? Marami pa. Actually, pretty much lahat ng recyclables. And ang container naman, ang very important lang, natandaan natin when we're doing container gardening, since our limitation is the size of the container, dapat alam din natin yung equivalent na size ng container per type of plant. So, ibig sabihin, pag ang tinanim mo ay eggplant, of course, eggplant is a really big plant, di ba? And it has a very complex root system. So, kailangan medyo malaki din yung lalagyan mo ng lupa. So, you can either use mga galon na maybe 5 gallon, 3 to 5 gallon na container for eggplants. But for leafy vegetables, yan, pwede na dyan yung mga pet bottles natin, ng mga soda, ng mga mineral water. Yan, pwede na yung leafy, including mga herbs. Pwede din dun sa maliliit na lalagyan. Pero for plants like eggplant, bell pepper, tomato, it requires a bigger container, no? And then, of course, you put drainage on your container. Importante din yun, no, na your drainage should be on the side of the container, not on the bottom. So, tandaan natin yun.
Oh, actually, that's very helpful. Kasi ang recollection ko is magbubutas tayo sa bottom part.
Yeah.
So, mali pala yun.
So, you just like create a little allowance from the surface ng container or bottom, maybe 1 to 2 inches. Doon ka na mag-start maglagay ng holes. Kasi that allowance doon will serve as your reservoir for the water. Kasi sa container gardening kasi mabilis matuyuan yung mga tanim. So, importante moist palagi yung lupa. So, pag nagdilig tayo, pag nasa bottom yung butas, mas mabilis mag-drain yung water, mauubos agad yung water, and then mag-dry up yung soil. So, if you have a reservoir, pag nagdilig tayo, at least may maiiwan na konting moisture dun sa lupa for the plant to thrive. Kahit hindi ka magdilig everyday, no? Yan. So, that's one of the hacks, no, ng urban container gardening. And of course, kung hindi nyo pa alam, importante din kasi sa process of making the food ng tanim ay yung oxygen. So, in order for the air to enter the roots, dapat nasa side yung holes para pag bublow yung hangin, mapasok siya sa lupa. So, yun ang isa sa magandang tip. Na.
Wow, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Wala yun, dalawa. So, of course, meron tayong, ang third is about your soil. How to make your soil. So, we always believe that soil is a living thing, and it's important for you to understand na pag healthy ang soil, definitely healthy din yung tanim down the line. No? Pag hindi healthy yung soil, hindi din healthy yung tanim. Ang kailangan lang nating tandaan sa paggawa ng lupa, kasi we're gonna make our soil, no? Kasi in urban farming, you don't own land, pero you can make your soil. That's the good thing about it. And then, ang importante lang na yung soil natin, may mga apat tayo na basic na characteristics. Number one, yung soil mo has a water retention capacity. So, ibig sabihin, yung lupa na halo dun sa soil mix mo, mayroon siyang way to hold water, so may moisture content siya. Second is that meron din siyang organic matter. So dapat either may compost siya or meron siyang
Mhm.
healthy na dinagdag mo na fertilizer. Pangatlo, syempre huwag kang gumamit ng lupa na galing sa exposed sa toxic materials, no? Nalagyan ng pintura, nalagyan ng oil, nalagyan ng
Mhm.
gasolina, ganyan. And then number 4, dapat yung soil mo ay mabuhaghag. Meron din siyang factor na mabuhaghag siya. So kasi importante din sa root penetration na mabuhaghag yung lupa for easy access ng roots doon sa container mo. And of course, you can make different soil mixes, no? Pwede kang bumili na ready na sa mga agri-supply store, or you can like make your own soil mix, no? From number 1, yung compost na meron ka sa bahay. You can actually do composting at home because 52% of the waste we generate as a household are biodegradables. Ibig sabihin,
Yeah.
yung mga cuttings mo sa gulay, sa prutas, yung mga
Mhm.
papel, itlog, eggshells, and so on. And
Yeah.
that are compostable materials. So, dun sa composting kasi, if you're doing composting at home, you're actually making your own soil. And that's another activity na very interesting to engage our family members in. And when you have you can use either different ways of composting. Sa Manila, famous yung bokashi composting. So if you can do bokashi composting, madali lang din gawin yan. If ferment mo lang yung basura mo. Kami dito, we're doing vermicomposting. Meron kaming alagang mga worms, no? Yung mga African nightcrawler na in a span of 2 weeks, yung aming basura nagiging lupa. Mabilis lang siya.
Oh
Wow!
my God. Galing ah.
So that's another, and that's Rhina's pet. No, the worms are her pets, and that's the
Ay,
alternative.
talaga.
Yeah.
Oo.
And then of course, pag may maganda kang soil, maganda kang container, then tatamnan mo na siya ng seed. And your seed can actually come from both harvested seeds dun sa binili mo sa palengke, or you can buy your commercially available seeds para naman mas mataas din yung success rate mo. And then at the same time, importante lang natandaan natin sa pagtatanim always is that the plant also need fertilizer. So aside from sunlight, importante din yung fertilizer. So sa fertilization naman, pwede tayong gumawa ng mga fertilizer din natin from our available material sa bahay. So may mga tips tayo dun sa making mga fermented fertilizer. Ang pinaka-basic na nutrient requirement ng tanim ay yung NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Yan. So yung tatlo na yan is very basic, and the other are called micronutrients. So yung nitrogen can be sourced from your fermented plant juice. Yung pwede yung mga leafy vegetables mo, i-ferment mo kasama ng brown sugar. Yan, pwede nating ma-harvest yung syrup niyan, pangdilig na yan. So, and there's like a vast of sources naman ng information on how to do fermentations. So, importante lang na hindi lang enough yung magdidilig ka ng tubig, dapat mag-fertilize din. And then, of course, along the way, may experience mo, may mga peste na atake sa garden mo. Yan. So, if you're doing container gardening, at least pwede mong i-isolate. Parang sa ano lang, no? Pag may sakit yung isang tanim, i-isolate mo yung pot na yon para hindi siya hindi dadapuan yung iba pa. Or, you can apply yung mga simple biopesticide, yung using your vinegar, plus dishwashing paste, plus garlic, yung mga solution na yan, pwede natin
Wow!
pang
Pwede
spray.
pala yun.
Yan. And then, of course, ang pinakamahalaga sa gardening kasi talaga is yung TLC.
Yeah.
Yung,
Kailangan talaga ng alaga, no? Tender loving care.
yes. Kasi that's really the factor na magde-determine kung whether or not you're going to be successful din. Kasi you need to spend time sa garden. Hindi pwedeng hayaan mo lang yung garden. May iba nga na nagiging stress reliever nila yung gardening. Nagiging source nila nung tawag dito, well-being, mental well-being. Kasi pag nag-gardening ka, nakafocus ka lang eh. And then, may physical aspect konti kasi magbubuhat ka, magbubungkal ka. And that really adds up to that whole formula nung successful natin na process of becoming a green thumb. Mayroon tayong green thumb na. So, yeah, that's quick lang na tip on making your garden. So, number 1 is that you assess muna your location and sunlight. Number 2 is you make your container from your available materials. Number 3, you prepare a really good soil. and then you start sowing the seed. And number 4, to address problems no related to pest and diseases, you manage your garden, TLC, and then you can also grow flowers. May mga flowers tayo that can repel and pest and attract pollinator. So yung if you're familiar with marigold, with zinnia, petunia, sunflower, you can actually grow that one alongside your gulay. Ilagay mo sa separate naman na container para meron na tayong instant na panlaban doon sa mga pests.
Para lang din pala yung Plants versus Zombies, no? Kailangan
Yeah,
meron kang
naalala ko si
panglaban.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Marigold.
Actually, Carla, I've learned a lot. Alam mo ba, nag-start ako ng, I wouldn't say gardening, but I started with, buying plants. And you know what happened? Kasi I'm not a green thumb. So, ang nangyari eventually, namatay yung plants. So, ano masasabi mo, Munir, para dun sa mga tao na really wanted to get into farming or get into gardening, pero they are green thumb?
Actually, wala namang tao na walang green thumb eh. Parang, as explained, like, pag nag-lecture kami ni Ryan, it's about science, no? Parang maganda kasing pag-aralan yung science. Parang it's a step-by-step process that when you miss a particular step, pwede kang hindi mag-succeed. No? So, susundin lang natin yung proseso ng pagtatanim, tamang way. And I think, hindi malayo na ma-achieve mo yung green thumb na sinasabi. Pero dapat nating tandaan na in farming or even in gardening, it's always a learning experience. No? Learning by doing. Unless you do it, hindi mo talaga malalaman, ma-figure out ano yung naging problema. And of course, there are no mistakes in gardening. Everything is an experiment, no? It's a continuous process of experimentation. Kaya importante always na sinasabi namin yung concept of mindset kasi kung yung mindset mo at the start ay negative na hindi talaga ako magpe-fail ako dito, ganyan. Talagang mangyayari 'yon, no? Pero pag inisip mo na, okay, I'll fail pero I'll try again, I'll plant again, I'll grow again, talagang magsasucceed ka. And that's the story we always heard naman sa mga naging successful sa farming. It's not, of course, there's no bed of roses, sabi nga nila. But it's a really good learning experience for you. At it really builds your character. Sabi nga nila, gardening builds a character. Kasi it really drives you to be patient, drives you to learn more, to be inquisitive, to understand better all the processes. And of course, down the line, magsasucceed ka kung susundin mo yung proseso.
Wow, very well said. Do you have something to add to that, Carla?
Well, actually, may naisip lang ako kasi 'di ba, ang uso ngayon are the indoor ornamental plants. 'Di ba? I think those are ornamental, yung mga malalaki, 'di ba? So I think na-realize ko lang din with what Munir was saying na siguro aside from, investing on the ornamental plants, we can also invest on those, yung mga talagang gulay, and yung mga something na pwede natin i-consume, 'di ba? Kasi very very timely siya ngayon eh. 'Di ba? Hindi natin alam what's gonna happen, 'di ba? So at least we also know, or at least we've started something na, we can be sustainable in our own kahit sa family natin, 'di ba? So I think it's a very nice thing to start at this time.
Yeah, actually, ang pinakamahirap naman talaga is to start. But once you've started,
Yeah.
tuloy-tuloy na yun eh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ang gusto ko lang i-point din no, na this is really a pressing issue. Like for example, we talking about mental health, no? And because of the pandemic, yung sense of isolation, anxiety, and all. What could have been like a worst scenario if yung food insecurity na nangyayari sa atin, like yung thought na I don't have a food to eat sa next na meal, yun ang mas stressful, and it is being experienced by a lot of Filipinos, especially na nawala na tayo ng trabaho, ganyan. And of course, depende din naman sa preference ng tao, pero sa tingin ko, growing a food garden is really about addressing a lot of challenges na encounter natin this time of the year, no, this pressing time na about really the mental or the physical contribution, pero it's really about addressing food security. And malaking tulong kasi yung konsepto na empowered tayo. Yung sabi ni Ryan na it empowers you, empower the kids, ganyan. Kasi pag you know how to grow your food, you're actually empowered. You can actually try to be independent from the food system. Yan yung sinasabi natin always. Kasi of course, we're being dictated naman dun sa the bigger global food system. Even the type of diet na kinakain natin, di ba? Ano nakikita mo sa grocery store, precisely that will really influence you, or sa advertisement sa TV, that will influence you what type of food you're gonna eat. Now, if you know how to grow your food, pretty much you have the decision making as to what type of food you're gonna eat. Either healthy ba siya, or ano yung kulay na gusto mong kainin ngayon, ano yung luto na gusto mong kainin. And parang we're actually going back to basics. Alam mo yung nung araw, nanay natin or mga lolo natin, yung harvesting ng gulay or ng food is part of food preparation. Ngayon kasi parang ang food preparation mo, mag-slice na lang diretso ng processed food and then luto na.
Yeah.
Ibalik natin yung konsepto na part ng food preparation natin talaga, pumunta ka sa garden mo, may hawak kang basket, may gunting. Di ba? Tapos, parang ganon.
Yeah, actually very exciting, nakakatuwa. Kasi isa yan sa mga pangarap ko na mag-start talaga ng farming and, having to grow my own food. So, what are the plants naman na you can suggest na people can start, especially in areas na I think you've mentioned this na before na if you have a very small space, there are certain plants or there are certain seeds na you can only start. But like yung sa amin sa condo, some of the vegetables kasi or mga fruits na kinakain namin, like ako, mahilig ako sa apple, sa mga sayote, ganyan. Is that something na we can start in our condo?
Yes,
or is yan sa kailangan nating i-consider based dun sa sinabi mo earlier?
Of course, factor pa rin yung consideration ng sunlight requirement, no? But sabi ko nga, pretty much maraming sa mga gulay na nabubuhay, no, for a particular type of sunlight exposure. Pero for starters naman, ang aming advice is that, kasi di ba, you want to be successful sa first try. Kasi that will really encourage you to do more. So I suggest, you try the easiest crops to grow, such as, pinaka-easy talaga, yung pwede nating ma-harvest in less than a month or a month. Yung mga talbos ng kamote, talbos ng alugbati, talbos ng kangkong. Pwede nating itanim yung kangkong kasi nabili na natin. You can grow pechay, mustasa, you can grow onion. Pwede yung onion cuttings natin, yung roots, itanim mo ulit. And even lettuce, you can actually start growing lettuce in small batches lang para hindi naman kayo ma-overwhelm. And you can harvest that one like in 45 days, or 35 days, sorry. Mabilis lang. And once you actually harvest the easy ones, mas ma-encourage ka na mag-try pa ng mas complicated kumbaga na crops. So leafy greens, kasi pag talbos ng kamote, pwede mong i-harvest yan pa ulit-ulit tumutubo lang siya. And you can make your own, di ba? Kamote, salad, talbos na kamote salad, or ang lagay mo sa sabaw, and so on.
So siguro, based on what you've mentioned, for people who want to get into this type of business or in this type of industry, siguro the first thing that they need to understand is learn talaga. So they need to undergo training, most probably attend webinars, para they know the things that they need to do versus the things that they don't need to do.
Yeah, exactly. May question kasi na, okay, what's in it for me? Bakit ako mag-gardening? Ano yung benefit na makukuha ko? Aside from the ones na mentioned, no? Pero if you look closely, 70% of our household income is actually being spent on food.
That's true.
That's a fact, no? And if you have your own garden, you pretty much displace that amount of money you're gonna spend outside. And that creates a passive form of income for you. So, parang savings na rin yun, no? And ang kailangan lang talaga nilang gawin is that the good thing about our situation nowadays is that we're really connected, and yung Internet of Things, nandyan lang sa harap mo yung mga information. You can actually try to to do a lot of research online, and you can even participate on free webinars, mas lalo na ngayon.
Yeah.
DA is giving free seeds. Kung wala kang seeds, pwede kang humingi ng seeds sa local government. And of course, like kami sa Kids of Farm, we're doing also online classes on urban farming. Maraming tumutulong ngayon para talagang ma-equip yung mga tao on starting their own garden. Kaya kung hindi ka nag-succeed or kung hindi ka naengganyo, parang nasa iyo na talaga yun. No? Priority siguro, no? Parang gano'n.
It hits me talaga kung ano yung mga sinasabi ni Munir. So, I can just agree din sa mga sinasabi niya.
Yeah, actually ako din eh. Yung mga prior knowledge ko about farming, hindi pala talaga lahat tama. Well, I'm really not into farming myself, but I want to be into, this type of industry in the very near future.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the supplies. Gaya nga ng sinabi mo kanina, Manir, na if you don't have the money to buy seeds, you can ask from LGUs. Aside from the seeds, yung mga soil na kailangan natin, saan naman natin yan nakukuha? Are there suppliers out there, reliable suppliers out there that would give us quality product, but at the same time affordable naman siya?
Okay, una siguro the concept kasi of urban container farming is really about utilizing, repurposing resources na meron ka sa bahay. So yun ang number one, no? Para you won't have to spend. No? Kaya na-mention ko about using recyclables, composting, seed harvesting. These are ways where you can start your own garden without having to spend. Pero if you have naman the money, walang problema yon, pwede tayong bumili. And there are in Metro Manila, there's plenty of agri-supply stores that you can visit. If you're near Quezon City, yung QC Memorial Circle, there's a whole parang line dyan na mga nagbibenta ng mga agri-supplies. Seedling trays, importante din yon, and containers, yung mga pots and so on. And pagdating naman sa fertilizer, we always encourage kasi to make your own fertilizer. But if you want really to be more comfortable of using yung mga tawag dito, yung mga ready-made fertilizer, you can actually buy a lot naman. Even it's online, yung mga Lazada, yung mga they're selling these fertilizers. Pero may caution lang kami, you always check on the label. Yun lang yung number one consideration. Kasi this urban farming is really about food safety, no? So you don't want to put something dun sa tanim mo na makakasira sa tanim, and later on makakasira sa inyo kasi kakainin niyo yung tanim. So maganda na aralin din natin yung benefits of organic farming, your natural farming, para maganda na gumawa tayo ng natural way of producing our food. Pero since if you have the resources talaga, you can actually buy from the agri-supply stores. Even in malls, merong mga agri-supply stores na marami. Yung mga hardware, they also sell that one. Mga basic na gardening supplies.
May question ako about the soil. Is there kahit anong klase ba ng soil pwede yan sa kahit anong, kumbaga generic? Is it a generic thing na, kunyari ako gusto ko mag-plant ng vegetables? Can one kind of soil be enough? Or does it have to be specific to us? Parang ganyan.
Meron lang tayo, yung 4 na characteristics na na-mention ko kanina, yun lang yung number 1 na consideration always. No? Kung gagamit ka ng lupa dyan, for example, if you have an area na pwede mong bukalin para kumuha ka ng topsoil, tingnan mo yung topsoil mo, if it's already, kung mabuhaghag na yan siya, then kailangan na lang siguro dagdagan mo siya ng compost para maging mataba yung soil. Or kung ang soil mo masyadong compact, kailangan mong dagdagan ng pampabuhaghag, such as buhangin or rice hull. And then, yung compost talaga from your waste sa bahay, that's going to be very important kasi yun yung organic matter na kailangan mong ilagay parang importante yun, that's a given, na kailangan nandun talaga sa soil mix mo. But yun nga, marami sa mga agri-supply stores, they're selling kasi yung mga naka-premix na mga, for starters, para hindi ka naman mahirapan. Pero I highly suggest for urban farming that we really need to do composting. of our biodegradable waste. Kasi hindi lang naman siya about gardening eh. Composting your waste, you are really helping
Yeah.
address
Yeah,
solid waste management.
Mhm.
Imagine
Yeah.
52% of your waste sa bahay, hindi mo na siya ibibigay sa nangolekta ng basura para
that's
itapon sa
true.
landfill.
Tama.
Kasi gagawin mo na lang siyang fertilizer. And that's really
That's
good.
true. Akala ko kasi, when you start gardening, it's only loam soil. Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Iba yung mga tinuturo.
Napaka-obsolete. Yun kasi
Oo,
yung
loam,
tinuro. Loam
ganyan.
soil lang. I didn't know na you can
Yeah.
mix it with sand, or we can mix something
Yeah.
out of it. O pwede pala
Mhm.
talaga yun. So all
Yes.
we really need to do is, research more, attend webinars and yung mga trainings para mas lalo mo talagang maintindihan. Just like any other industry naman talaga, when you get into any type of industry, it is really important na you understand what you're getting into. Can you give us tips, or for the audience who are watching right now, can you give tips, or probably closing message for them, an inspiring message for them, so that they can help raise awareness dun sa cause ng Kids Who Farm?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much Uptown TV for having me here. Thank you, and thank you, Carla. Siguro kailangan lang nating maintindihan kasi paulit-ulit naman na explain yan eh. Siguro importante na mas maliwanag yung ating understanding about the very importance of food and farming and how it connects to our daily lives. So, ang maybe it's a big issue, no? Malaking challenge, pero ang good thing about farming is that wala siyang stereotype dapat yung farming. Everyone can be a farmer. So kung, di ba normally sa mindset ng tao, pag tinanong natin, ano yung mukha na na-imagine mo pag farmer? Ang na-imagine natin, nakasakay sa kalabaw. Di ba? Nasa field, tapos or either nagbubungkal, pagod na pagod, ganyan, or may hawak na, at yung mukha niya matanda, di ba? Normally,
Yeah.
nakikita natin, no? So that's one of the stereotypes na gusto namin i-dispel, no, sa Kids Who Farm. Kasi everyone can be a farmer. In fact, bago lang nabalitaan ninyo na si James Reed is already an ambassador for food security ng DA. And di ba, it actually cuts all levels of society, all status of the society, even people who are really ultra rich are doing farming. Hindi lang
Yeah.
naman para sa mga lowly people yun. And we want to also elevate the status of a farmer as a very important component of the society. When we look up to lawyers, we look up to doctors, of course, they're very important. We should also look at farmers from that perspective na isipin mo yung nagpapakain sa'yo, dapat ganun yung pananaw natin sa kanila. Mataas dapat yung regard natin. And we always look up to our parents because they provide us with food, with our education and all. And dapat ganun din sana yung ating pagtingin sa mga farmer. And what better way to empathize, no, about that the status of our farmers than to do it ourselves, to become farmers ourselves. And urban container farming really, gives you that experience of trying to start or trying to really put your feet on the shoes of the farmer para ma-realize natin yung buong prospect or buong proseso ng growing your food. At hindi naman siya mahirap. It should not be hard. Yun nga, yung Kids of Farm, ang aming motto is to make farming fun and easy. Kasi hindi talaga siya naman dapat maging mahirap. And as mentioned already, yung mga tips na kailangan natin gawin. And parang unless you do it now, unless you start your first path, hanggang discussion or hanggang concepts lang yung ating pag-intindi sa farming. So, siguro after listening to this, I suggest you start your really first path para makita natin how you grow your food and you witness how the seed becomes a seedling and then later on mamumunga. At kung nag-succeed tayo, mas better kasi mas may encourage pa tayo to plant more. Yan.
Wow, very inspiring message. Thank you very much, Munir.
Naisip ko nga yung sinabi ni Munir. And it's very nice also that we expose din yung sarili nating kids, 'di ba, into farming. Kahit naman nasa city tayo, they can still be exposed to those kinds of things. Especially ngayon, they're the generation na naabutan tong pandemic. It's gonna be a different generation. Eventually, when they're old enough, they'll be the ones to have said na, oh, I've been here, I've been in this specific time. And it's very important that while we are in this specific time or in this pandemic, they also get to know or get to learn yung mga back to basics natin, 'di ba? I think this is an opportunity kasi masyado na tayong advanced, really, 'di ba?
Mhm.
Masyado na tayong advanced yung mga kids natin, puro gadgets na lang. I think this is a nice opportunity for them to get to know yung mga basics, especially when it comes to food and food security, 'di ba? And in urban farming is one of the ways na talagang ma-expose natin sila even if nasa city tayo, 'di ba?
Yeah, gaya nga ng sabi ni Munir, you have to widen your perspective and you have to be really innovative and creative.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have the capacity, you don't have the luxury, you don't have the land, hindi ka na pwedeng mag-farming. Kaya nga ang tawag sa kanya urban farming. Kasi you can
Yeah.
farm wherever you are, you just really need to be a little bit innovative. All right. Well, thank you very much, Munir. And
Thank you, Munir.
siguro we'll expect the links of your Facebook page, Instagram, if you have, so that your our audience and those who are interested in kids who farm costs, and at the same time those who are interested in urban farming, pwede na silang dumirect sa page ninyo. And that's it. Siguro yung mga links na lang, we'll wait for it later.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Munir.
All right, there you go, Carla. Nakakatuwa naman
Yan.
yung natin, yung
Oo,
guest
natuwa ako.
speaker natin. Ang dami ko talagang
Oo.
natutunan.
Oo. Kasi 'di ba ako, sa totoo lang, I only have 2 pots of plants dito sa bahay, 'di ba? Tapos yun isa naku, muntik-muntikan na talaga. Malapit na siya mategi. Kaya sabi ko, very very appropriate din talaga tong urban farming na discussion natin today. And na-realize ko na talagang hindi talaga pwedeng pabayaan lang Kasi usually very busy tayo. We have our work, we have yung mga dito sa bahay, ganyan. One thing din na siguro yung mindset lang i-shift natin na instead of thinking of gardening as a chore, you could think of it like yun nga, as a, parang meditation ba? Alam
Na,
mo
you know
yun?
what?
Oo.
Tama yung sinabi mo na a lot of us kasi, they always think of farming as a chore.
Yeah.
On point ka doon. Kasi yun talaga
Oo.
yung iniisip ng karamihan. It's like a chore. It's like paghuhugas ng plato or yung
Yeah.
pagwawalis. But if you
Oo.
really change your, magkakaroon tayo ng paradigm shift. You change your perspective, and especially if you give importance to growing your food and including your children to engage with you in doing, this as a family thing, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be a long way.
Yes, oo, I agree. Especially ngayon talaga sa time na to, it's a very timely, timely issue or timely na trend for us, especially dito nga sa mga nasa city, 'di ba?
Wow, nakakatuwa naman. And yung learning, no, is always continuous, no. It's a never-ending learning talaga. You know what, Carla? I am very excited kasi kanina Munir mentioned about helping our waste. Actually, that's one of the
Yeah.
topics na we are looking forward to discussing, yung pagkakaroon ng zero waste management. And probably it's going to be one of the topics that we will soon discuss towards our next upcoming webinars.
Episodes.
Next episodes. I hope you guys have learned a lot in urban farming. To some of you who are interested, don't have the time to watch this webinar, you can always watch it again. It'll just be in our Facebook and soon to be in our YouTube page. You can always go and message them directly. It's their Facebook handle is Kids Who Farm. And to those of you who wanted a topic that Carla and I can discuss, you can definitely message it here in our Facebook page, and so that we can look into it.
Yeah, and we're gonna schedule, diba? Schedule lang natin yan. If you have anything that you want to share with us or share with our viewers, especially kung kung very beneficial sa time na to, while we're all, just utilizing online. Very, very important din yung no? Maganda rin, and it's very nice also
Yes,
if we, yung mga news feeds natin, positive lang talaga. Positive
definitely.
vibes lang. Ganyan, di ba? Instead na mag-away, di ba? So,
Yes.
tayo, positive, at the same time, may matututunan ka pa. Di ba?
Kaya lang,
Yeah.
sayang wala akong coffee. It was a very great discussion. Dapat with a cup of coffee. Don't worry, next
Kaya
time
nga,
I'm gonna have one. Ikaw
mer-
meron ka na
yeah,
eh.
meron ako. Hindi ko talaga, kailangan ko talaga ng coffee. Coffee lover talaga. Well, maybe next time we can do something about coffee, no?
Ay, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely we can. Let's talk about coffee.
Oo.
Growing your coffee or
Marami
yung mga
tayong
latte?
pwedeng, dyan, guest dyan. Di ba?
Yes.
Oo. Oo,
All
kasi, di
right.
ba? Is coffee talaga ngayon
Very
very, very,
essential. 90%
mm-mm.
of Filipinos sa umaga pa lang hindi nakakain pero kape lang.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Definitely we'll have that in one of our episodes.
Yeah. So, wait lang sila dyan sa mga next episodes natin at yung mga next na guests. May mga nakapila na tayo, di ba, Wen?
That's right.
Oo. So, schedule lang tayo. And if they have anything that you want to share, they can just message us here in Facebook, and, you can contact us. We're very accessible naman.
That's right. All right. So thank you guys
Thank
for
you,
tuning in
Jo.
and hope to see you guys soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye!
Bye.